Good evening and welcome. I'm Bob Pace. I'm your host, and here we are to fight CPS and stop taking our children. This is Saturday night. It's a little after 7. I know my podcast usually starts at 7, but I had a delay start here. But I want to welcome you all to this podcast. It's a reality podcast, meaning it's live and you can interact with me on this. Now, to interact with this podcast, there are 4 ways. One way is just by being in the room. One way is just by being in the room. And you can take notes. You can do emojis. Please subscribe below. I appreciate everything you do. But one thing, and hi, Jessica Lake. Hello from Missouri. Yes. Hi, Jessica Lake, and thank you so much for saying where you're from. Jessica Lake, I know you've been on before, and I'm glad to see you again. Now, there are 4 ways. One way is just by being in the room. The second way is by typing in comments. And please type a question or comment about your CPS. Make sure you show your name if your name is unusual and when you signed up for YouTube or Facebook. Also show the city, the state, and yes, country. There are 13 countries that have, texts and comments about their child protection system. And some of the countries go from Bangladesh to India to Africa to Europe to Canada to the United States and all 50 states and to Mexico, Guyana in South America, and then across the Pacific they have is Australia. And they've all expressed an interest, and I'm glad to have them there. Be complete with your case. Try to tell how your family is structured, and then what your kids are, the ages, the sexes, and what the allegations were, and how they were taken from your home, and what part you're in the in your case, the beginning or been a couple years or whatever there. Now, the third way to interact with this podcast is to be a guest on my podcast. Please email our producer, Grace, at vincentwdavis.com. That's Grace at vincentwdavis.com. She is working hard behind the scenes. She tries to keep the show running good. And she is very helpful. Now, if you want to be on my show, there are 14 shows to pick from. It's Monday through Sunday, morning or afternoon. I'm on at 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time and on at 7 o'clock at night Pacific Standard Time. On Sundays, I'm on at 8 o'clock in the morning. I have church with my family on Sundays. Next Friday, the 6th of September, I have a very important football game for my son. I'll be there supporting on, so I'll be on at 3 o'clock. But most of the time, I'm on those times. So please pick one of those times you want to be on my show. Email Grace at vincentwdavis.com, and she will put you on the show. She'll give you a link. I broadcast on YouTube, and StreamYard is the application I use. And so she'll help you get on there. She'll tell you that we have no eating on the podcast, no smoking, and we don't use the names of our children, the judges, or the social workers on the podcast. So just go ahead and email Grace at vincentwdavis.com. Now, the fourth way to talk about my podcast or to interact with my podcast is a call in. My phone number is live now. My phone number is 626 698-0990. And that is my phone number. And you can start calling in now. I am live. And last night we had several guests on. One was Summer and then Christy. And she had a very difficult case and she talked about it. We've also have right now Jessica Lake, who's called in before. And she has a bad case in Missouri. It seems like every state, I have yet to hear a really good state that doesn't have CPS problems. With that being said, I do have people that visit my room regularly. One person that I speak to regularly is Faye. Now, Faye is from Richmond, Kentucky. She's a very corrupt state, and she usually is on by now. I have no idea where she is. I also have Natalie from West Hollywood, and she just started coming back. She's been away for a while because of her phone and internet, but she's on again. And I have my co-host that was on for a regular bit, but then she disappeared, and then she came back for a session. Now she's disappeared. So that's Danielle from Georgia, and there is KK Richardson from New York. Welcome. We got Missouri, New York in the house, and thank you, KK, for the warm hi. And then we got down there, we got, that's it so far. So Faye should be joining us shortly. Natalie will, and I guess some of the regulars will too. Now, tonight, I know all of you are struggling with your case, and I feel for you because what is so hard? I keep doing this show over and over. It never gets any better. I do hear from you all from time to time that things are getting better, but more people are being killed in different states. There's a girl in Virginia, a CPS case. There is so many. In fact, Faye gave me a memorial that she's made of about 20 some people with pictures on stones. And it's really sad to know that many people have died at the hands of CPS. CPS is a very evil agency. I call the child protection system CPS. They're not transparent. You're going to deal with them very hard to deal with. It's like you're Alice in Wonderland. You fall in the rabbit hole and you go from room to room. It makes sense. And then you meet the Chester cat. It further confuses you. Just remember the story of Alice in Wonderland, because that's what CPS is. CPS is an agency you need an attorney for. My rule number one is get an attorney. And I cannot emphasize how important to get an attorney. You say, wait a minute, I have a court-appointed attorney. Well, a court-appointed attorney is just as good, is kind of useless. I'm not telling you not to use them, but they'll have a caseload of 30 people. They won't talk to you outside of court. The first time you talk to them, you're in court at the hearing, and they're not going to fight for your case. They're friends of the lawyers of the children. The children got court-appointed attorneys, and the social worker attorneys and the judge are all in cahoots. And you're very much mistaken if you think they're going to fight for your case. They don't want to. They want to settle it. And everybody in this room can agree. Hi there, Isha Harris. Glad to meet you. I forgot what city or state or country you're from. Hey, Isha Harris. But welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm glad to see everybody in my room. That is super. Now, as I explained to you, rule number one, that you need to get an attorney. And right now, I have an attorney, Vincent W. Davis, that hosts this podcast. I want to thank him very much for helping us. But he's the number one attorney out there that fights CPS. He has 35 years of fighting CPS. He has stood up to him, got the children back. He's done lawsuits and won both state and federal court civil lawsuits, millions of dollars. So he is a really wild attorney. I mean by wild, he's a good attorney. He is a juvenile family dependency lawyer, and he is a trial attorney. So he has experience of knowing how to do trials. And Harris Haitisha is from Chicago, Illinois. So we got Brooklyn, New York, I think KK is from. And then Jessica Lake from Missouri. I think she's from St. Louis, or she might be from Columbia, Missouri. But anyway, I'm glad to have you all here. And I'm glad you come every night. And you're probably wondering what's new or anything like that. This room is dedicated to all you families that want to get your kids back. I want to do what you want me to do. I've been involved in CPS for 15 years. In 2010, at the age of 60, I lost my job through no fault of my own. Then for the next 5 years, I had my wife's parents, her mother, her dad, her sisters, her brothers, constantly call in on us saying that we weren't taking care of the children. We weren't feeding them, weren't taking them to school, weren't bathing them, didn't provide clothing, stuff like that. Yeah, I have a beautiful home. I live 1 mile from the beach. It's a private neighborhood. It has CC&Rs. And what they were saying was nothing. They wanted to alienate our children from us. They wanted to steal our children. They never came to the wedding. They were lay people that call in. And with lay people, when they call in, the social workers believe it's true. In fact, anybody that calls in with a complaint, the social workers dub it as true, and you're guilty till you're proven innocent. It doesn't work like with all courts of law, but in child dependency law, family law, juvenile law, it all works against you. You're being trafficked. Your kids are being trafficked into foster care, and they're being alienated. And those two things are against the law. It's not right to traffic children. And it's certainly not right to alienate children. And sometimes people going through divorce will alienate the children and try to have the children turn against one or the other. But I want to help you. I want you to ask me the questions that can help you. I know you care because you wouldn't be here over and over. Some of you have been in here regularly all the time. KK Richards has been in here since I started my show back in October 2023. And Jessica Lake has been here the last couple of months. She's been on the phone. She's talked. And then Hatisha Harris has been here before. All of you I recognize from before. And so what I want to give is you something else, something new or something like that. Yes, I repeat the importance of getting an attorney. Without an attorney, you're not going to get your kids back. It's that simple. They're very corrupt. So corrupt, like in Kentucky and Richmond, there's $1 million unaccounted for. And there's another person in CPS's office here that is charged with embezzling funds. See, they make trillions of dollars every year, the CPS does. That's why they take your children. They get money from the state, who in turn gets it from the federal government. And they freely give the money. The money is not recorded or there's no accountability. There's no one as a watchdog over the CPS county people. They seem like they do their own thing. And if you're in foster care as a child, you have kids later in life, they'll come after you. There's so many people I've talked to that once were foster care kids that have become parents, and now they lose their children because CPS will keep their record on you as a child and use it against you. They're really terrible. They're really, really, really terrible. Does anybody want to call in? My number is available, 626 698 0990. I'm free to talk, and I'd love to help you all. Anyway, when you want to get an attorney, right now I made arrangements with Vincent Davis for a consultation for 30 minutes for $60. All you do is call in 888-888-6582 and ask for a consultation with Mr. Davis. Make sure you tell him that Bob Pace sent you. And when you talk to Mr. Davis, tell him that Bob Pace sent you. It's so important. That's a special rate, $60 for 30 minutes. $60 for 30 minutes. You can't go wrong. There's so much that they can discuss with you. My case, it got worse as time went on. Some reason they think I'm too old, I'm a dinosaur and can't work. But I can work. I got many years out of me. Now, we have Christina Avers. I think you've been on before. I'm in Ottawa, and I filed the USC 42.1983 claim, title 18.241.242 in the federal court, along with two charges are it's COUBTS, coupes of kidnapping. Let me put that up so y'all can read it. I'm trying to drag on a word I shouldn't be. 2 cobuts of kidnapping, human trafficking, and as of this Monday notice of principle of filing notice demand that the found upon the court would be fined unless the federal judge upholds their oath in carrying out their public offices duties. In June 28th, 2024, the Supreme Court overturned the Chevron case from 1984, which now means Supreme Court told all courts and agencies that, let me see, that okay. Hi, Natalie. Welcome. Glad you're here. You know that federal suit. Good. I don't know how it finishes there. 1983. Okay, court told all courts, ABD agencies, that the counts, it didn't end it very well there for me, Christina. If you could tell me further about that, that would be great. That would be great. But anyway, Christina's sharing a thing that she did with the courts, which is amazes to me. I'm going to try to find that case. Let me see here. USC. 42-1983 claim. 42-1983 claim. Okay, here's the claim I think I found. Okay, this claim is known as Section 19 and allows people to sue the state and local government officials for violating their civil rights. This applies when someone acting the color of the state level or local law has deprived a person of rights created by the U.S. Constitution or federal statutes. It is a means to enforce civil rights that already exist. Now, I'm glad that she is sharing this with us. Okay. So I don't know if Kay is on. Is Kay on here? I haven't seen her yet. Oh, you mean KK. KK's on, but not Faye, but KK is on. Good. You know that federal lawsuit, Regina. That's great. Chevron was sued. I guess that's the case. And they were responsible, means agency has the authority. Okay. The person making this, his name is Christina. And Christina Ayers I have no idea where she's from. Do you know where you're from, Christina? By the way, Natalie is from West Hollywood, California. And Hey, Tisha Harris is from Chicago, Illinois. And KK is from Brooklyn, New York. And Jessica is from St. Louis, Missouri. But I don't know where Christina is. Oh, I'd love for you to call in, Christina. My number's been up for over, I guess, 15 minutes. It's right there on the screen. 626-698-0990. Ah. Okay. Good evening. And who am I talking to?
Christina Akers. I'm the one that put the comment.
I'm glad you called me, Christine. I was worried that my number wasn't showing, but I've had it up there for quite some time, so I'm glad you found it.
Yeah. And what I did, this started 4 years ago, and court-appointed attorneys were doing me way more harm than good. So I decided to go pro se. And in my case, they retaliated and audited me. And I ended up taking it to federal court. And the USC 42-1983, that is where, when they're acting under color of law, that's state law. They have to abide by, it has to be aligned up with the Constitution. And if they have violated your rights or fundamental liberties, you have every right now to press charges against them. Now, they say that they have, immunity, but that's what the Title 18, 242, and 241 sections are. That now takes their liberty, their immunities away from them. And what makes it even stronger now is when in June of this year, on the 28th, the Supreme Court Justice Gorsuch had made the comment about there's just too many laws. In 1984, the Chevron case, it allowed federal and state agencies to be able to interpret the law, which was very broad. And in doing so, they've made thousands and thousands of laws. And innocent people are being charged in criminal cases in family courts and all of that.
Uh-huh.
And what it does for people like us is it now opens it up to say, you can't just interpret the law no more. You have to go by what it says in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence.
Okay. Now, can you tell me what city and state you're from, Christina?
Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
You're from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And what is the child protection system called there?
Department of Human Services, DHS.
Okay, they're called DHS, right. And they're very, very corrupt. Okay. And
yeah, I have 42 pieces of evidence, even the lady on the police officer's body camera admitting to doing the things she said that I did. And the judge just she wouldn't even take it. And at one point, it got to the point where when they audited me, I won that because that judge started to see there was some things that weren't adding up. And so I filed last year, and they still have not even gave me a response. So this Monday, I'm going down and I'm filing the fraud upon court. And what that is it's now putting the judge on notice, the federal judge, that the court is a mythological creature. It doesn't have opinions or feelings. So when the judge goes in there and they are acting upon the court, if they decide to act, with the DHS and all that, that means that now they are committing a crime, and that's fraud upon the court. And so it's basically telling them, you do your job, or you will potentially have charges pressed against you now.
Okay. Now, my other question is that how did this all start? What were the allegations?
Well, during the pandemic, I'm 46 years old. I was in premenopause, and I got really, really sick. It started with being constipated. And I know that sounds kind of funny or weird, but from February to June, I wasn't able to be seen. I didn't have COVID symptoms, and I got deathly sick to the point where when we got to the hospital, it was really bad. But I dropped dirty for drugs, and they called the CPS before they found out I had HELP. I'm an Rh negative blood type, And HELP is, well, I was their first patient here in Iowa. And the medicine that I was on and stuff had did the false positive, which the Mercy Hospital had told them that. They just ignored it, though. And in doing so, I have no criminal record. I had no drug record, no abusive record. I actually was approved to have my daughter's best friend because her family was involved with DHS. And when I ended up going to the hospital that day, they had to perform an emergency C-section. I found out I was pregnant that day. I was 25 weeks. And neither one of us had no withdrawals. I mean, I don't do drugs. And
so you didn't know that you were pregnant?
Stable, so I had to go to ICU.
Right. You didn't know you were pregnant? You did not know you were pregnant?
No, I'm in premenopause, and I couldn't get no medical assistance. So all I knew at the time was I wasn't able to have a bowel movement from February to June. And I mean, it got so bad I couldn't move, and I had to go to the hospital. And when I did get there, I was dying, and I had to stay in ICU for 3 days. But none of that came up in the investigation or nothing. She left all of that out. And when I met her after I got out of the hospital, she didn't come around for a month. And when she did, and I had no problem. I had no problem doing an evaluation and the recommendations, whatever. I had nothing to hide. And I was a very good mother. My daughter was 14 at the time. And, I mean, she had 6 medals. She took state tournament with the basketball. She was a great kid. And, well, when she came a month later, she had said she forgot to have me sign the papers for the agreement. Well, I signed the 2 for the recommendations for ASAC, to get the evaluation and whatnot. I had asked for help finding a parenting class. It's been 14 years since I had a kid. And she had another paper, and it stated my name, my 2 children's name, in this big blank area. And then at the bottom, it said, I consent to abusing and neglecting my children. And when I told her I've never abused my kids, I didn't know I was even pregnant, and I'm not understanding, that's when everything changed. She started like screaming at me that the county attorney would have took my children, and if I didn't sign, she scared me so much I signed. But then she just grabbed that paper and headed up my door, and I got a bad feeling, and I went to the door, and I said, can I have that paper back? I ain't got no problem signing it, but I want somebody to explain it to me. I am disabled. I had a stroke in 2012, and sometimes I don't get it. So she starts ripping up the paper out in front of my house, yelling, DHS is done with me. She's on camera doing this. And I took it, I still did what I had told them I was going to do. I got the evaluation the next day. And in Iowa, that Monday, right after that, we had the derecho storm. And the day after I got the evaluation, I got served with court papers. And then that next week, I still went on the telephone and did my groups or whatever. But when we got into court, it was a telephone court, and she was the first person to testify. When she got on the stand, she started telling the judge I was aggressive and I ripped up the paper and I refused services. And that's not what happened. And I didn't have an attorney. And when I brought it to the judge's attention, she literally didn't even address it. She just said, we're rescheduling the hearing for September 4th, I think it was, and I will personally send you the papers to get an attorney. The problem was 4 days later, they held an ex parte hearing, which means the judge only hears one party's argument and evidence, okay? And the evidence they used was that same worker that lied on the stand, her affidavit, to emergency remove my children. And it got even worse because the court-appointed attorney I had no idea I had, he waived my 10-day due process rights. So I didn't know all this at the beginning, and I was literally just getting manhandled. And I finally just got tired of it. The biggest victims here are my kids. My daughter now, she went from being on the honor roll. I told you about all the sports, and she was in church. We had a great relationship. Now she's failed all of her classes. She didn't graduate this year. She has 37 tattoos. She smokes pot. It's sad, and it's unacceptable. And I told them a long time ago, you messed with the wrong mom, and I meant it. I can't give up. And so I've learned all this law on my own, and I've been implementing it, and I've been helping these people on the internet because it's the right thing to do. And they have now taken my home, they've taken my children, they cleaned out my account. I'm now being evicted from this place because when they found out I was going to Supreme Court, it just so happens 4 days later, I got arrested, and it was an illegal arrest. They tried to charge me with drugs. I was at someone else's house. I work with the elderly people where I live, and they had a search warrant for his house, but they arrested me and tried to charge me with the things he had, and it was crazy. I was in the jail. I've never experienced anything like that before. I've never been to jail. And when I got out, I had a lot of things happened in there. I had a lot of bruises. I ended up having 2 seizures. And then the apartment building served me papers. They also said that my apartment was the one that got searched. And none of it made sense. You know what I mean? And I now know what's going on. I pay online. You can pay $30 for 25 minutes of advice. It's pretty much one question. And he flat out told me, he's very honest. He told me, he says, they're trying to set you up. What better way? Because they know they've lost. So what better way than to make you look like the person they said you were? And they did that a long time ago. I'm a single mom. I'm low income, and I have no support. It's just me. So when it came down to me and that CPS worker, nobody was believing me. I wouldn't even believe myself if it wasn't happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't stop, and I will not stop. And I told them that, and they didn't believe me. I did have a stroke, and I think they thought I was just stupid. And I'm just wanting to help these people.
Well, you're doing very, very, very good.
1984.
Yeah.
What?
I was going to sit there. We've had some other people join the room. I want to say hi to them and welcome them. We had Faye Manley from Richmond, Kentucky, a single mom. And so I'm glad that Faye has joined us. We have Natalie, who's from West Hollywood, California. She knows about the Chevron case, and she's a single mom. She works really, really hard. I've had Jessica Lake here and KK Richardson. Jessica is from St. Louis, Missouri. KK is from Brooklyn, New York. And I have Hatishis Harris from Chicago, Illinois. And they've all joined the room in here. Right now, Christina is talking about her case where she had to be her own attorney. She had to be a pro se. She had a court-appointed attorney that did nothing for her, which they don't. They never do. And anyway, she is fighting a big-time case. Now, did you have 2 or 3 children?
I had my daughter, and then my son. That's how it all started. Is when I went into the
What
hospital.
about the baby that you were born? The baby you had. What sex was he?
Huh?
The baby you had. What sex was he?
He's a male.
So
He's a male.
So
it was
have
a miracle because he was only
right.
25 weeks.
So you have 1 female and two male children, right?
Nope, I got one female and 1 male. I don't know where he is today. My daughter actually started breaking the law and coming back because a lot of bad things happened to her.
Did she get taken and put into foster care? Did she get taken and put into foster care? Well, that's where the bad things happen. For all you listeners out there, Christina had a daughter. Right. Christina had a daughter that did quite well in school academically, won awards and everything, but she got abducted by the Child Protection Agency, put into foster care, and she turned into a bad child now. And so how old is your son now? How old is your son?
He would be 4. And my daughter's not a bad person.
No, I'm not saying she is. I just said that she got into the bad. I know she is. Now, why is your son that you birthed, why are you not with your son? Why come you don't have your son?
Well, I was told by the second court-appointed attorney that They were never planning on giving me my son back. When I researched a lot of stuff, 86% of the kids that they find in the trafficking come from foster care.
Right.
And babies are a high market. They get about $1 million per baby. And they wanted my son. So they actually tried to negotiate during the first hearing if I signed this agreement that that day my daughter could come home. My first court-appointed attorney, when I finally got him to talk to me, he told me flat out, he says, you can fight it, but do you have enough money for an attorney? And I'm like, I'm looking at him and I'm going, but you're my attorney. And he goes, well, I'll make you a deal. And he slid the paper over. He says, if you sign the adoption papers for your son, we'll give your daughter back.
Oh, I hate that. I hate that.
I started puking inside their office, and I'm standing out in the parking lot, and I was trying to wrap my brain around the fact he was serious. This man was serious, and that's when I knew I was in a lot of trouble. I didn't know how I got there, but I had to get out of it. It's been a nightmare ever since, and I want to tell all of you mothers, don't give up, because it will be worth it. You know what I mean? I've been fighting for 4 years, and they know, I know, and I played it out to where even ASEC worker wrote 8 letters. My doctor did. They're going to lose, and I'm hoping that this will open it up for everybody else, because this is an industry of human trafficking. That's what it is. That's all it is.
Now, Faye has said the Chevron case, from how it's been explained, doesn't really affect the Department of Children and Families. Do you know what she means by that?
Well, it does. Well, it does, because, okay, so the Chevron case in 1984, Congress had gave all federal agencies the authority to interpret the law. And so that literally made it a very broad way to do it. So now they can if they, when DHS, they say, well, you know, you did this or did this, but it doesn't actually align up with your inalienable rights, they still get away with it because they're interpreting it, right? Now, they've taken that away. That's what Chevron's done. They have taken that away, and they have to uphold the Constitution, because all state agencies, they have no authority to tell you that they can just infringe upon your rights, because they're God-given natural rights. It's called the laws of nature and nature's God, okay? And in the Independence, Declaration of Independence, I have the original copies. I spent almost $2,000 on my law books, and it states in there the fact that it's the laws of nature and nature's God. God is the ultimate authority, and he gave that to man. We instituted the government, and they don't want people to know that. And they work for us. They're supposed to be there only to protect our rights and defend us. And 1984, that opened it up to where they could now manipulate the law. And that's what they've done. And so Gorsh had said, and this is his exact words, I can read it to you if you want, but he had stated that what they've done is literally monopolized the justice system to work against the people instead of for the people. And that's illegal, you know, and let me get it here real quick, and I'll just read it, you know.
Right. Natalie says something else. Natalie says she remembers from the 80s how government was going on Chevron's monopoly and gave agencies priority to investigate. That's what Natalie is sharing.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he said in his statement.
Mm-hmm.
And because you got to have a premium. This is the craziest part too. You don't ever get none of this information unless you have money to pay for it. And I didn't have money. I actually got very lucky on Facebook. Another lawyer had sold me the law books for, I couldn't believe it, but he sold them to me for $40 and delivered them. And this is the exact words he said. It was in the Loper Bright Enterprises versus Ramato. And Justice Gorch said, as I understand it, it says that you got ambiguous and broad regulations and status. They got to be clearly explained. So it throws back to either Congress has to rewrite these laws, and a whole lot of them, or the court, who, if they are just an administrative court, which they are, they cannot just interpret the law, but there has to be an actual court ruling with the full due process of natural law. That means it's civil proceedings, right to trial by jury, etc. No quick administrative ruling, because you have a right to the full process of natural law. And their argument to that was it'll just be a burden on the system. Well, and Gorse told them no, and that's not the case. It's not going to go down that way. And so it does. And if you look up on, it's called ULaw on ulaw.org. It's on YouTube. He explains all of it to you. And he'll explain how it works for the family courts too.
Are you still with me? Did I lose you? Christina, did I lose you? Okay, I'm going to try reconnect Christina. Okay. I'm trying to reconnect with Christina in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Yeah, I lost you.
Yes, my phone is dying. My daughter was calling. I went to flip over, and the phone died, so I had to plug it in real quick. And I just
okay.
Well, I haven't called her back yet, but you guys rang.
Okay, we're getting close to the end of my show. I know it's 8:00. I'm going a little bit later tonight because I think it's important for you to get out what you have. I do want to share. I do want to share what people are saying. Is that Natalie has said, remember from the 80s how government was going on Chevron the monopoly and gave agencies priority to investigate? Natalie shared that. And then Faye says, might make it easier to sue them, but not stop their unlawful acts, or at least it hasn't yet anyways. So Faye says, yeah, you can sue them, but it's not going to stop the acts. And then let me finish this up.
And that's why you have to stand up and you got to make them.
I know.
You know, they're going to try to tell you that it's not going to work. But that's when you have to be firm. And you got to stand there firm. When I served the notice of principals down at the Board of Supervisors, they had to end up giving back $1.7 million. And I'll be honest with you, I was scared out of I was scared. I had sweat dripping everywhere. And they're fierce. And you got to think about this. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry they've got going on. They're not going to.
It's a $1 trillion business. It's trillion, not multi. It's $1 trillion.
Yeah, and it's crazy. And it's crazy what they're doing out here. If we don't stand up now, our children are going to be fighting this fight.
It's every state. It's not only Indiana. It's every state. I hear very corrupt charges in Kentucky. I hear in Pennsylvania, Maine, New Hampshire. I hear it in South Dakota. I hear it in Mississippi, Arkansas, Texas, Georgia. Every state, I've heard nothing but negativities about that. And Faye further says the exact same thing happened to her in her case, she said. And then...
well, and here's the thing, though. I don't mean to interrupt you, but here's the thing. In the Declaration of Independence, it tells you flat out, when the government becomes destructive to all ends, it is now the duty of the people to stand up and you either change it or abolish it. And we have every right. If you write out a notice of principles and principles to agents, That is now putting them on notice because you are their constituent. We are their bosses. They know this, but they don't want the public to know this. And that's why it's so important for people to stand up and fight. Because if not, everybody's going to end up losing their children, and we will be slaves to these people. We already are. We just got to, break the chains.
I agree. Who is Judge Garza? Natalie brought up read Judge Garza, G-O-R-S-Z. Do you know that judge?
I don't know. We'll get up here right when I get off here.
Yeah, it's called, she says, read Judge Garza. That's from Natalie from West Hollywood. And then Natalie also says, Congress agreed in 1984 for the law to be not only made public agencies' decision making in all systems. So, and then Faye.
And that's,
go ahead.
Yeah, that is correct. And that's what happened. What happened on June 28th is they overturned it. The Supreme Court overturned that ruling. And they said that's no longer going to happen. Because, in all actuality, it's now so much. There's over 60,000 new additions that, good people, they don't even know when they're, violating the law because it's not even law. I mean, when you really question it, they had no authority or power to create those laws. And that's why we have a convention of the states. And I mean, I go a lot further than just this case. I'm actually taking on the system because what is going on is unacceptable and it just can't go on no more. When money overrates morals, there's time, it has to change. And that's just the bottom line for me.
Okay. Faye asks a question. Who's going to make the Department of Children and Families go by the law? They never have in the past. So who's going to make them? And how are you going to make them? How are you going to make them go by the law? How are you going to make them go by the law?
I'm doing it with their rules. The one attorney, the last one that I had, he actually started feeling bad because during the court, the lady, the visit lady, was talking about she thinks they're conspiring against her. Well, when he asked her when she was on the stand, can you say they're not? And she actually said, no, I can't. And when we got out of there, he looked at me and he said, I don't hold it personal when you've got to throw me under the bus too. You have to realize a lot of these attorneys, they have to sign, contracts before they get their degrees. And that now kind of binds them to keep quiet. And he told me flat out, you got to go to federal court, and so that's what I did. And the first time I filed, I was new, I was disabled, I didn't know what I was doing. But this time, this last year when I filed, I did everything right, and they know I did. And over the last 4 years, like the sheriffs down there, they actually make sure none of them come at me. And the people have started to see it. And I let it all speak for itself because I had nothing to hide. And that's, what I stood with, and I will always stand with that. I'm a mother, and my job is to protect my children. That's my number one job. And I don't care who's standing in my way. If you broke the law to do it, you will be held accountable.
Okay. Now, we have a new person that entered the room. Her name is Rachel Schuyler. I have no idea where she's from, but she said yes. Then Natalie says something interfere on rights, what Natalie says. Natalie further says a trillion trafficker industry. Well, it's $1 trillion business. And yes, they do traffic their children there. And Rachel, who I don't know from, says yes, but half of us can't vote. I don't know if she's talking about the immigrants or what there. And then Natalie says the Bill of Rights have the official duties of rights. And then Rachel says anyone with open cases is excluded from voting. I did not know that. You mean if you have an open case with CPS, you can't vote? Is that true?
No, that shouldn't be a law. That's definitely not a law. I don't know who's telling them that, but...
Well, Rachel's saying that. Natalie says, see the original Bill of Rights in 1989. And then Rachel says, never...
I have the basically the copy of the original Constitution from 1876 when they codified it, and the original United States Constitution, along with the articles, the 7 articles. And with those, the thing of it is what we see on the internet is not even half of what is actually the law. And that's, I mean, I don't have enough time right now. My daughter's beeping in again. I don't know when you're on next, but when you're on
I'm
next,
on again tomorrow morning.
I can give it to all of you people.
Yeah, I'm on again tomorrow morning. It's Sunday. I'll be on at 8 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time.
Okay, well then I will see you guys then. I do have to get off here right now, but I promise you this: don't give up. Don't give up, because this will all come through, and the parents will get their justification, and the children will get the accountability that's coming to them.
Yeah, okay. And then I want to thank you so much for calling in and sharing your story. I look forward to tomorrow. I always tell my folks, don't give up. Keep fighting. Keep fighting for your loved ones. I always say that.
I appreciate everything you do. I don't know where you came from. You ended up on my timeline, so I think that's God.
Well, I thank you very much for having me. I've been talking twice a day, 7 days a week, and since October of 2023. So I have hundreds and hundreds of YouTube videos of me talking about people with guests, and everything else. I want to give back to you people out there because I care about you. I too was a victim of CPS for at least 10 years, and I've still been fighting for 15 years. And I'm telling you right now, they are the most corrupt agency I've ever seen in my life. And that means from every state. They're nothing but, they're not transparent, they're revenge, and they do steal your children. And they don't care about parents, they don't care about reunification. So I'm glad you contacted the show, and best of luck to you. And I'll see you tomorrow. If you're not on at 8 o'clock tomorrow night, Sunday night, I'm on at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'm on every day of the week. Sunday's the only day I'm on at 8 in the morning. And then next Friday night, I'll be on at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, I want to say further, you can go ahead and go if you haven't gone already. Natalie says, contact me having a, what do you say now, Natalie? Okay. Okay, Rachel met criminal cases. Maybe criminals can't vote, but I thought they have to be convicted criminals that they can't vote. And I don't think the CPS is a criminal case. Natalie says California legislation approves more foster homes care this year. The funding, she says something about funding. And then Natalie says, hi, Rachel. I don't know where Rachel's from, but we all give Rachel a warm welcome. And Natalie says, contact me having a clothing drive for kids. That sounds good. And then Natalie says, fighting. Yes, we do fight hard in this room. I know that, Natalie. Natalie says, please. And then Natalie further says, Christmas, my Uncle Bob, let me know 15 years fighting DCS. Yes, I've been fighting him for that long. Natalie says, pray for all that God bless. I appreciate, Natalie. You're a very kind woman. And again, I appreciate all the emojis, the thumbs up, the hearts, the smiley faces. And I really appreciate all the comments that people are giving. And I'm so glad to got to meet some of you. And hopefully tonight you learn some things that can help you in your case. But whatever you do, don't give up. Do not give up. I want to thank Natalie from West Hollywood, California. I want to thank Rachel Schuyler. I don't know where you're from, but thank you for calling in. I want to thank You see who else here. Faye from Richmond, Kentucky, who has gone through so much. I'm really proud of her. She's helped me out so much immensely. So thank you, Faye from Richmond, Kentucky. And again, I want to thank Christine Ackers, who called on the phone. She's from Cedar Rapids, Indiana. So I want to thank her. And then, let me see, anybody else to leave out? Oh, I also talked to Hatisha Harris from Chicago, Illinois. And then I've talked to Jessica Lake, who's been on my phone from St. Louis, Missouri. And KK from Brooklyn, New York. Can't forget KK. She is great. So thank you, all my listeners, all my supporters. Please keep fighting for your kids. Come and see me every night. We'll discuss things that can help you save your family, get your kids back. Again, all you have to do is see me twice a day, and eventually we'll catch up with your case. You can call in or be a guest. So I want to thank all of you that have called in tonight and been so supportive. God bless you. And this is Bob Pace signing off. And I'll see you tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. That's Sunday, 8 o'clock time. Good night.